The Freedom Trail is a walk in Boston which connects 17 historical sites and allows a quick introduction of American history in the city of Boston for tourists, as most of those sites have a direct connection to the events which led to the American independence. In the next minutes we're going to show you those sites, not in the order they appear on the Freedom Trail, but in order of the historical events they are connected to, and give you a bit of background knowledge. We begin at the Old South Meeting House, which was built in 1729 and at that time was the biggest building in all of Boston. South Meeting House was an important place to debate about politics and also hosted the conference which led up to the Boston Tea Party. After large amounts of tea arrived in the Boston harbor, the Bostonians had to decide what to do, because if it would have been brought to the land, they would have to pay the tea tax. So 5,000 Bostonians gathered in this spot to decide what to do. They actually decided to put all the tea in the harbor. After their first decision to send the tea back to England failed, Samuel Adams addressed the crowd and said, "This meeting can do nothing more than save the country." Today you can find his grave on the Granary Burying Ground, together with other patriots who believed in American independence and were strong opponents against British taxation.
It was named because of the 12,000 bushel grain storage building that was once next door. There is discrepancy between the number of headstones and the number of buried people that are here. There's an estimation of 5,000 Bostonians that are resting in this ground. The infant's tomb is where thousands of children are buried. It is near the central obelisk that marks the graves of Benjamin Franklin's parents.
There are some important people buried in the Granary Burying Ground, such as John Hancock, Samuel Adams, or Robert Reed, who signed the Declaration of Independence. Others are James Otis and Paul Revere. We're going to introduce you now to important people.
James Otis. He was born in 1725 and died in 1783. He was a member of Massachusetts Provincial Assembly and a lawyer in colonial Massachusetts, of the Patriot views against the British policy. His catchphrase was, "Taxation without representation is tyranny," which became the slogan that summarized the primary complaint about the American patriot colonists. John Hancock was born in 1737 and died in the year 1793. He was an American wealthy merchant, statesman, and patriot. He served as the president of the Second Continental Congress and was the first and third governor of Massachusetts.
Beautiful.
Samuel Adams was born in 1722 and died in 1803. He was an American patriot and a strong opponent of British taxation, who failed as a brewer and newspaper publisher before becoming one of the independence movement's leader and statesman. He helped formulate resistance to the Stamp Act and played a vital role in organizing the Boston Tea Party. He was also a signer of the U.S. Declaration of Independence. Robert Reed was born in 1731 and died in 1814. He was a Massachusetts lawyer, politician, and a signer of the U.S. Declaration of Independence as a patriot representative of Massachusetts. He was the state's first attorney general and served as an associate in the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court.
Another event which is symbolic for the frustration of the colonists towards the English is the Boston Massacre, which happened in front of the old State House.
The old State House was built in 1713. This is the oldest public building in Boston. The Massachusetts Bay Colony office was in there. This is the main center of civic, political, and business life. It was a meeting place for economists and local news. This is the most important building in the colonial America prior to the National Historic Site. This was the original home of the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court. The Declaration of Independence was first read on July 18, 1776 on the balcony to the citizens.
Currently we are standing in the exact place where the Boston Massacre occurred in 1770 March. It all started with a wigmaker's apprentice called Edward Garrick, who accused Officer John Goldfinch to not have paid his bills. After Gary continued to offend the officer, the guard asked him rudely to stop and slapped him in the face. This was followed by a big chorus of Gary's companions screaming at the guard. More and more people came and started to throw garbage and snowballs on the guard. White called for help, and the officer on duty, Thomas Preston, sent 6 soldiers and a corporal of the 29th Regiment and later himself. The crowd keeps growing and started to rampage the place. Corporal Montgomery was hit by a musket. During falling down, he shot in the air and screamed fire. On this command, all soldiers, besides one, fired their muskets in the crowd. 6 people were hurt and 5 died immediately or later because of their serious injuries. The first real battle the English and the Patriots fought against each other happened in the villages Lexington and Concord, when British military tried to confiscate and close gunpowder, weapon and other military equipment storages located in those towns. At the end of the fight, a total of 123 men died. It marks the beginning of the Revolutionary War.
The Old North Church first opened its door in 1723. This building is the oldest standing church in Boston. On April 1775, Robert Newman and Captain John Paulding Jr. light up 2 lanterns to signal Pearl River that the British were marching to Lexington and Concord by sea across the Troy River instead that by land. The fight between the British and the Massachusetts militia following this event started the American Revolution.
Paul Revere was born in 1734 and died in 1818. He was a silversmith who helped to organize an intelligence and alarm system to keep an eye on the British military. He was also an engraver and an early industrialist, and he was also buried in the Granary Burial Ground.
Paul Revere's house was built in 1680. It is the oldest structure in downtown Boston and the only home on the Freedom Trail. Paul purchased it when he was 35 years old and lived there with his family. He was a patriot in the American Revolution, and in 1766, he engraved a print representative of the repeal of the Stamp Act. He published a print of the Boston Massacre in 1770, and from that time he became one of the most active opponents of the acts of the Parliament.
Another site on the Freedom Trail, which is connected to the Battle of Lexington-Concord, is Boston Common Park, as the British Forces base camp was located in it.
So we are here at the Boston Common, which is the oldest park in America, and it was established in 1634. This used to be a place for public punishments and executions. The British military used this area as a base camp. The park's size is 27,000 meters squared.
Okay, we are currently walking to Bunkers Hill here in Boston.
Honey, these arms that once held you are ready to fight.
The Bunker Hill Monument, which is the last site on the Freedom Trail, was built to honor the Battle of Bunker Hill, as that was one of the most important combats on the way to the American independence.
So now we are in front of the Bunker Hill Monument. This monument was complete in 1842. It commemorates the first major war between the Patriots and the British during the American Revolution.
Although we are at Bunker Hill at the moment, the war actually happened at Breed's Hill right next door. That hill was easier to build the fortifications because it was smaller and better to protect. On June 17, 2,200 British forces under Major General William Howe and Brigadier General Robert Pigot landed on Charlestown Peninsula and then marched to Breed's Hill, which is located on our left. The first attack of the British ended in a disaster, as most of the soldiers were shot while they tried to run up the hill. After reforming, the British attacked again, with the same results. However, the Patriots were running low on ammunition now, and when the British ran up the hill the third time, they reached the top and won in a hand-to-hand battle. In a single combat kind of fight, the British had the advantage of having bayonets.
The battle was a significant moral boulder for the inexperienced American, as it showed to them that they could keep up with the British. Additionally, the high casualty on the side of the British showed them that a war with the colony would be long, hard, and expensive.
Next to these sites, which are directly connected to major events on the way to the independence, there are a couple more important places on the Freedom Trail who demonstrate that the colonists built their own independent infrastructure and community and lost their direct connection to England. Examples are the Boston Latin School, the Old Corner Bookstore, and Massachusetts State House.
The Massachusetts State House was complete on January 11, 1788. So today this is the state capitol, and this is the office for the governor, as well as the Massachusetts General Court.
And was built to show the power of the new nation.
Faneuil Hall is the planning and construction of Faneuil Hall began in July 1740. Prior to this, the people of Boston had debated whether an centralized market was needed in the city. The Cradle of Liberty is on the eve of the American Revolution between 1764 and 1775. Faneuil Hall's assembly room above the marketplace became a civic center where many meetings were held that discuss and protest British policy and subsequent grievances. After the American Revolution in 1806, Faneuil Hall was significantly expanded and enlarged by the firm early American architect Charles Bulfinch. Bulfinch doubled the height and width of Faneuil Hall and added a third floor.
This is the Boston Latin School, which is the oldest public school in all of America. Today it is the old City Hall. It offered free education for boys, where girls had to attend a private school at home. Also the second oldest school in all of America. The first one was a private school though. Although this school moved to the Fenway neighborhood, it is the 51 best ranked public school in all of America right now. However, they actually don't teach Latin anymore. 5 signers of the Declaration of Independence attended this school. The original King's Chapel was built in 1688 and was a small wooden building. In 1749 they decided to build a bigger chapel at the same place to be able to fit more people. The challenge was to build a chapel which was equal to the ones in England. Today people say that it has the nicest interior in Northern America for a Georgian chapel. This is King's Chapel's burying ground, and it's the oldest burying ground in Boston. In fact, it is as old as Boston. Especially interesting is the grave of Joseph Tapping because of its design. In the early 19th century, the grave marks were replaced to build more straight lines. This is where it is difficult to actually track down who is laying here. Park Street Church was founded in 1809 by 26 Bostonians. It has a 66-meter high tower. During the war in 1812, there was a large storage of gunpowder in Park Street Church. The founder of Bates College, Benjamin E. Bates, was a member of this church and was a teacher for the Sunday school in the mid of 19th century.
I've been there before, hoping and trying to make things right, but now I don't know